and strong within all of us. I, Yamaguchi Musashi, go under the black night sky, the same one that joins our days together. This is where I found the fifth scroll, rolled and filled of darkness, that empty place, that space none of us may ever fill. It may never be satisfied within all of us. And after a life of blood-beckoned battles and numerous decisions of calculated sight, Yamaguchi Musashi, with all his victories, lay worn out and tired beside the sword, the brush, and the 5 scrolls etched in the bark. He stood tall and proud. All of his pain had boiled into blood, and the crane's feather dipped into the red ink, pierced its strategic honey into a cave buried deep in her mountain, leading Yamaguchi Musashi back home.
Cat skinners, for Christ, put on their sacred hard hats, fire up their holy bulldozers, begin scraping the forest down to bedrock. They bore holes in the earth's crust and set their charges, singing hosannas of praise to the creator of mayhem, their sound so loud they can't hear the trees scream as roots are ripped from the mother's breast. Their dynamite blasts cover the earth's dying wails. They break for lunch, opening their Pandora boxes, littering the canyon with Hostess Twinkie wrappers, spilled lamb's blood, old illiterate religious tracts. Infused with the spirit and reeling drunkenly, they began hacking deep scars into the canyon walls. They call in air support. F-14 strafe the canyon, firing phosphorescent tracers, turning fleeing foxes, squirrel, and deer into exploding fireballs. The mountain changes to mud. Trout and perch suffocate in the silt. After an afternoon prayer break session, a convoy of cement trucks files into the canyon, begins closing the gap. They build a wall 50 foot thick. The river stops flowing. As the sun falls sobbing into the sea, the cat skinners drive home, vaguely uneasy beneath their sanctimonious glee, kick their dogs, browbeat their wives for burning the meatloaf, spend the rest of the evening reading the more lurid sections and revelations by the new electric light bulb they have been given by their God for doing his holy work. Here's the monk.
I don't want to mess with the monk. That's bad mojo, man. Go ahead.
Boom, 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 boom. Forget who I would most likely last. I must needs walk this holy man path. I followed my love to the garden one day. At a cloven hoof, I did see her pray. Boom, 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 boom. I soon began that satyr to dance. When he spied me, was it fate or chance? He stared me up. He stared me around, but his golden gaze I did soon stare down. Down, when I, in my pride, went to claim my prize, my lover said to me with most sorrowful eyes, was it me that you won with your righteous chivalry? So keep now your pride, it's no chauvinist for me. Boom, boom. There's nothing but my pride left here with me. My eyes so full I cannot see. Sweetheart and Seder like did go. I'm a monk, near mad, and afraid for my soul.
To get some space here. I stood 5 foot in the kitchen while hungry hurricane winds ripped walls through chairs, flung tables and wipes, stripped of all my comfort, watching wilderness access like boils on my skin exposed. All the grumbling one-eyes think the whole thing's obscene. So I fled my house and escaped to the city streets, where I stand on the corner by the drugstore in nothing but my heart-shaped box shoes, ready to drop them and run. Arms swinging, chest pounded, heart pumping down the center divider on Main Street, bare ass naked. With my battle cry, look at me, I'm Nature Boy, al fresco, swinging free in the wind. And even though my dad used to tell me all the time, son, I wouldn't show that to too many people. I see bacteria bigger than that what you got hanging there. I don't care, because I feel naked already. So I might as well just strip down. Seems like a good time to take it all off and parade through the masses of humanity and nothing but with the freckles, the pimples, pussy, and the freckles that the good Lord has given me. The neighbor's runaway dog, damn fool thing, trails to my side, nipping at my dick like it was a ballpark frame. And all the grumbling one-eyes on the street corner shout at me, here and there, hey asshole, put some clothes on, I'll kick your ass, you fruit. Sounds like a challenge to me. Let's sword fight. You want a duel? I'll tell you what, the victor gets the spoils, and if I win, you have to rip the shirt right off your chest and run with me as fast as you can past the horn honks and the gaping strangers and the stoplights and onslaught of indecency and encroaching invasionary horn of jiggling boobies and weenies, clubbing the barbarians with gyrating genitals. My scrotum is drooping like a long loop. My balls are bumping and bruising my knees. But I am still running free because Martin Luther King says there's nothing in this world greater than freedom. So when the grumbling one-eyed toting bone hammers on the street corner tells me you are fucking ugly, I stop and I say, hey, what do you want? This is my body beautiful. This is all I got. Flawed, freckled, flabby, pimpled and peeled, slouched, stubby, short, scarred, bruised, battered, broken, bumpy, and sore. Cracking, popping, wiggling like Joe, naked and nasty. This is my body! And it is beautiful.
No, I was telling people last week it's been really great working with these guys because it's a bummer Mario wasn't here because he comes from the black tradition of jazz, so you got to see a lot of jazz poems. And John, you see, comes from a little bit of that jazz and blues, and like we discovered last weekend, he comes from another planet. It's all inspiration. It's cosmic level. So this one's called Prick Jazz, and it started out as a very small piece, and being around these guys, it grew and it grew and it grew. And, these guys heard it last week. There's something that happens when multiple ears listen. One voice becomes all the sounds combined. Like a locomotive with a wrecked horn, talking jive, blowing stories, talking about the painful stuff just to survive, and speaking basic human truth to all of you to let you know we're alive. But if you just want to sit there and be a listener, you gotta prepare those mama thighs for sliding. Talk to only listen as the cat moans multiple Coltrane scales that open the blackberry cheeks for sliding into sour sweetness. We've all been down that American highway, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of sweet blue melodies, pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling essential nutrients in and out and in and out and in and out of the poem pocket. Where injectors, secrets, like sweet honeybee wax, sticking like jazz on the lobes, rolling like Pachinko balls, traveling like silver bullets, exploding like dual stiletto metaphors, bird songs park central in the brain. No one remember the music. Woody's American ballads mixed in with our own dizzy and dizzy and dizzy and dizzy sounds, strummed in between Lenny's lines. Neo power pregnant between Ella's jazz, injected with Johnson blues. Johnson blues. It's the crank turned directly to the Grand American Jukebox. And it's all stars and bars clues anyway, wrapped around a boiling stew of multicultural mix and human color. It's a cornucopia of sound wrapped around Langston, mixed in with the base ingredient, the main gig, the backbeat Kerouac, the bottom line, poetry. I'm just trying to tell you about the dead times, the rock and roll healed the grateful blood, and Marsalis, he let the skin drop of salty rain. And all that was left were Hunter's words, stones, monuments, coins of meaningful worth. But now it's time to spread that U.S. currency. Spread it evenly, from tongue lick to bass bone to rolling thigh. Play those Armstrong chords, mixed in with the Escovita rhythms, intertwined with the Ginsberg word. As we love to taste what the ears love to eat, a whole gumbo of jelly roll flavors, even if it's just cheesy greens and fresh baked Dillon bread. It's a creation essentials, I'm telling you. It's a new path to the new American railroad. It's like the hammer on the inner workings of the ear. It works all day long and feels the stretch of the muscle. Then it arrives deep in the night to hear the sound of those hell trains and the stroke of that personal pleasure, the sound of your own fucking music.
Last winter, I watched the cluster bombs on TV with my neighbors. The bombs were falling halfway around the world and exploding in my local supermarket, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used to say. I stepped around the craters in the linoleum. It was Consumer Day, and I was shopping for all my little behavioral rewards. There was a pile of smoking and charred Bosnians between me and the ice cream freezer. What a bummer, I thought. Luckily, there was a small, propane-powered, non-polluting bulldozer cleaning up the aisle, and Led Zeppelin music playing softly over the moans and cries of the wounding children. There was a pert little honey blonde passing out free samples of low-cholesterol dog food. I pushed my cart along, gaining weight with each step. By the time I got to the checkout counter where the razor blade kid with his eyes rolled up in the back of his head was working, I weighed 600 pounds and didn't have a neck anymore. He ran my ho-hos over the scanner. Fried chicken's on sale, he remarked. Better give me a couple buckets, I said. I need the strength to go down to the voting booth. There's a couple more positions to fill with ex-CIA guys. Fucking A, he said, hawking and splitting phlegm into his rolled-up American flag he had in the back pocket. There was something about that kid that reminded me of myself when I was his age. So I went outside, cut my wrists, and bled all over the sidewalk.
Oh my gosh. You want me to just do
We have some raffle tickets if anybody wants to buy some that hasn't had a chance. Bottom of the door, people are leaving.
Actually, you got one of those. So 156 smoking butt. Okay, good. Smoking butt. What number do you have? I have a 565, 758. But I want to. What's the name of that store you're at? Okay, 157. Not to me again. I don't want it, so somebody else can have it. What? I'm gonna give it something. Yeah. A little bit of time. These guys are gonna go ahead and do some more stuff, and then if you guys want to donate any more to them, this will be right here. Okay. Awesome. Right here.
Thanks a lot, you guys. That's great.
Thank you, John. Honestly. Okay.
Honest John.
Honestly, John. Oh, my hero's up.
My hero's up too. When it is snowing and I am cold, up in the mountains, where I have no jacket and I am barefoot, and there is nothing to do, I have to be inventive, bend down, poke my finger into fresh powder, and imagine my inception, the beginning of it all. Now, I know what you're saying. How can this asshole have any recollection of what it was like to be in his mother's boobs? To be in his mother's boobs. But you see, I wasn't there, but I knew it was warm and safe, and I got everything I needed. And I didn't have to talk to anybody I didn't want to, like frat boys. And then, in the warmth of the womb and the width of the arms, I grew. I grew. And grew. When it is snowing and I am cold, I've been down on my knees. Get down on my back. And although you can't see it, I make snowing. In the snow. Like my mother taught me how. My mother. My first sight. My first word. My first home. When I was young, she was my teacher. And she was my protector, my fortress against the whole world. So when I went out there, no matter what happened, when I got bruised, battered, and broken, I always came back, and she loved me. And she always told me, no matter what you do, I will always love you. If you kill the neighbor's dog, I will always love you. I will be pissed, and you will be grounded. But I will always love you. And as I grew, and we grew apart, I no longer had that. And as we talked on the phone and argued, and I felt miles away, like, who is this person? It was empty. But when it is snowing, and I am cold, she holds me. In the warmth of her womb, in the width of her arms, and I am a snow angel, with wings like the whole world.
You want to practice? No.
That made me cry.
Over a cup of warm green tea, You can learn a lot about the family root that brews in your own boiled past. As the leaves allow their juices to be drank, conversation sips itself 21 years before my first breath. Madness stained of dynamite red into an empty cup. I don't have any clear images or precise feelings of how the family root was shaped. Just stories and stories and stories, enough to keep filling that teacup again and again. On January 8th, 1945, a storage shed full of family jewels was burned and blasted into millions of pieces beneath heads looking down in shame after a stampede of hate. The Doi family was the first in 30 Japanese-American families returning to California, soaked dry of any belonging. Torn roots searched for a recovering water pool and only found ramshacked threads, broken wood, and the sound of distant thunderclouds rising above Hiroshima. Kaboom! Nagasaki trembled in Hiroshima's footsteps, leaving trails of families whose skeletal structure barely held together. An apartment the size of a nuclear refrigerator. The family language was muzzled. They didn't talk much. When they opened their mouths, huge mushroom clouds billowed into nuclear dust. Back home, my Japanese-American elders, family root couldn't find the groundwater, was bumped off the American dream. Their hands were torn of life's bridle, and the homeward horse, riding toward a new chance for freedom, got broken and worn-out hoofs. Dry deserts and barren-naked minds vacant of any freedom gem. But as the ancient leaves bathe themselves in boiled water, they provide precious juice that can guide any of us back to our full human strength. Upon life's mountain, underneath those silver moons, where the steam only rises when your blood is at its own boil. And you have time to have a precious cup of green tea and talk about the family root and its incredible way of finding sustaining water for the healthy spirit, the humble heart, and all the celebrations and rituals where we focus our respect on our lives and the lives we share with others.
All right, one last poem here. I lived in Chico from 1980 to 1987 and moved back up to Nevada City. And one of the best things about Nevada City is the Yuba River. I don't know if anyone's ever been to the Yuba River. This is a song that I thought about for about 20 years, and I finally wrote it last summer. A political statement of the first degree. Yuba River, she's wild and free. We're both naked, river and me. That's exactly what I want to be. Swimming on the Yuba, boom, 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 boom. Swimming on the Yuba, boom, 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 boom. Women on the river, all shapes and sizes. Walking down a trail gives them nice strong thighs. All that beauty filling up my eyes. Swimming on the Yuba, boom, 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 boom. Swimming on the Yuba, boom, 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 boom. Don't think me lewd, don't think me crude, 'cause I think the women look oh so good, strutting around in their birthday suits, swimming on the Yuba, boom, 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 swimming on the Yuba, boom, 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 boom. My sweet babe, light of my life, she's my best friend, my lover, my wife. Down by the river, see my lady go dive, swimming on the Yuba, swimming on the Yuba. We get naked every chance we get. Jump in the river, baby, get ourselves wet. laying on the bank and we drip dried, yeah, swimming on the U-Ba, boom, 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 ba. Swimming on the U-Ba, boom, 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 boom. Join the naked women, children, and men. Jump in the river, baby, feel your skin grin. Do it one time, gonna do it again. Swimming on the U-Ba, boom, 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 ba. Swimming on the U-Ba, boom, 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 boom. Political statement of the first degree. Yuba River, she's wild and free. We'll both make it, River and me. That's exactly what I want to be. Swimming on the Yuba, Yuba, Yuba. Swimming on the Yuba, Yuba, Yuba. Swimming on the Yuba River.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out. We'd also like to thank Christine. We'll turn on the lights. Christine runs this series, and she's been real nice to us on the SNAP team and our organization down here in Chico. She supports Chico poetry, and that makes her cool. And you have all come, sat through this entire thing, and laughed at us, and that makes you really cool. So we appreciate everybody being here, and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I want to thank Matt and John and Aaron for doing this, and I want to remind you guys that next Tuesday night, there are flyers that went around. Amy Rochelle and Peter Galt are going to be here, and that's going to be pretty spectacular, I think. So you might want to come out for that next Tuesday night at 7, right here. Okay, thanks, you guys.
I have 2 more announcements. One more is we're going to have a kind of the same thing, kind of a benefit dash, whatever, on the 30th at Juanita's. So we're going to have Jorduga and the Primal Groove come out and play, so we're going to have a party. And then one thing we're going to try to do when we get back, we pretty much film all of our performances out in Connecticut. And we're going to try to throw a party so all you guys can see the video and everything. So you guys, thanks for supporting as a community. We appreciate it.
We're going to do that when we get back.
And come to Mario. Come to Juanita's if you want to see Mario.
And we'll probably be doing group pieces there, hopefully.
The group ones are bad.
What if we want to see more of you guys?